My mother didn't even look me in the eye when she threw my suitcase onto the porch. "Your sister gets sick every time she sees your face," she said, her voice completely devoid of warmth. "Pack your things. Tonight." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I picked up my one bag and walked out into the rain without saying a single word. They thought throwing me out would finally give my golden child sister the peaceful, perfect life she demanded. For 7 days, my phone stayed completely silent. Not one text, not one apology. But what my parents didn't realize was that I wasn't just their scapegoat. I was the only reason their household, their finances, and my sister's cozy lifestyle were functioning at all. On day 8, the panic set in. Before I tell you how they begged, make sure to comment below which city you're watching from so I can reply. My name is Harley Richards, and at 27 years old, I had built a life on being the quiet, reliable one. While most people my age were moving out, chasing careers, or traveling, I was still living in my parents' suburban home. On the surface, it looked like I was just a comfortable adult daughter who refused to leave the nest. But the truth was far more complicated. As a senior accountant at a mid-sized firm, I spent my days analyzing balance sheets and tracking hidden expenses. At home, I applied those exact same skills just to keep my family afloat. My 23-year-old sister, Chloe, was the undisputed center of our family's universe. Chloe was soft, delicate, and perpetually overwhelmed. Every time life demanded the slightest effort from her, whether it was a part-time job interview or a minor chore, she would develop mysterious, convenient stress illnesses that sent my parents running to comfort her. What my parents conveniently ignored was that I was the invisible pillar holding up their world. For the past 3 years, I had quietly paid the main mortgage, covered the utility bills, and managed the messy, disorganized books for my dad's struggling plumbing supply business. I did it out of a misplaced sense of duty, assuming my contribution was understood and valued. In reality, they didn't view me as a daughter keeping the family solvent. To them, I was just a glorified tenant who was expected to stay out of Chloe's way. The fragile peace in our house completely shattered on a rainy Tuesday evening. It started over something absurdly trivial. Chloe had decided she wanted to become a lifestyle content creator, and according to her, my spacious upstairs bedroom had the best natural lighting in the house. She marched downstairs while I was reviewing my firm's quarterly reports and demanded that we swap rooms immediately so she could build an influencer aesthetic lounge. I looked up from my laptop, exhausted from a 10-hour workday, and gave her a flat, calm response. "No, Chloe. I work from home twice a week and need the space. You can use the guest room." That single word, no, triggered a meltdown of epic proportions. Chloe burst into hysterical tears, clutching her chest and gasping for air, claiming my refusal was giving her a panic attack. Within seconds, my mother rushed into the living room, gathering Chloe into her arms like a wounded child, while my father glared at me with cold fury. "How can you be so heartless to your sister?" my mother spat, her face twisted with indignation. "She's trying to build something for herself, and all you do is hoard space and act like you own this house." "I pay the mortgage on this house," I reminded them quietly, my voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through my veins. My father stepped forward, slamming his fist onto the dining table. "Don't you dare bring money into this. Family supports family. You think because you have a fancy title, you can talk down to us?" My mother smoothed Chloe's hair, looking at me with a hatred that chilled me to the bone. "Your sister gets sick every time she sees your face," she said, her voice completely devoid of warmth. "Pack your things. Tonight." I looked at the three of them, my mother cradling her golden child, my father seething with misguided pride, and realized there was no point in arguing. I walked up the stairs, pulled out my single suitcase, and packed only my essential clothes and personal items. I left all my financial spreadsheets, my father's business tax folders, and the household utility accounts sitting neatly locked inside my laptop. I didn't say goodbye. I grabbed my bag, stepped out into the pouring rain, and let the front door slam shut behind me. I didn't drive to a cheap motel, nor did I sit in my car crying on the side of the road. Instead, I drove straight to a modern corporate apartment near my office downtown. For weeks, I had seen the writing on the wall. Watching my parents' growing entitlement and Chloe's escalating demands, I had quietly signed a lease and secured a key to my own sanctuary a month prior. I had just been waiting for the right moment to make the transition. As I unpacked my single suitcase in the quiet, pristine space, a strange feeling washed over me. Absolute, uninterrupted peace. No sudden tantrums, no high-pitched demands, no suffocating guilt trips, and no heavy silence, waiting for the next explosive argument. Days 1 through 5 passed in bliss. I cooked my favorite meals, focused on my work projects without constant household interruptions, and slept through the night for the first time in years. What my parents thought was a punishment was actually my liberation. But as I settled into my new life, I took a series of quiet, deliberate steps to completely untangle myself from their home. Sitting at my kitchen island with a cup of hot coffee, I logged into my online banking portals. First, I canceled the recurring automatic transfer that paid their $1,800 mortgage each month. Next, I removed my debit card from the auto-renewing credit account that Chloe used for her online shopping sprees and salon visits. Finally, I logged into my father's business software, revoked my master administrator access, and locked the portal. They thought they had thrown out an unwanted burden. They had no idea they had just cut off their entire life support system. For the first 5 days after they threw me out, my family rode high on their self-righteous high horse. In their minds, they had finally purged the toxic, unsupportive, older daughter from their paradise. But reality has a funny way of demanding payment, and by day 6, the cracks in their illusion turned into massive fault lines. It started on Monday morning. My father woke up to a severe notification from his business banking app. His commercial vendor payment had failed due to insufficient funds. Confused, he logged into his business portal to check his accounts, only to be met with a bright red error screen stating his administrator credentials had been revoked. He couldn't access his payroll, view his tax filings, or invoice his clients. For 3 years, I had quietly managed every single ledger behind the scenes, ensuring his business stayed afloat. Without me, he was completely blind. By noon, the domestic chaos took over. My mother received an urgent automated text from the bank alerting her that the monthly house mortgage payment had bounced. When she called customer service in a panic, the agent calmly informed her that the primary automatic transfer account belonging to Harley Richards had been canceled. Meanwhile, Chloe was having her own crisis at an upscale salon across town. After getting her hair styled, she handed over her credit card, only to have the cashier return it with a polite, sympathetic smile. "I'm sorry, miss, but this card has been declined." Chloe had spent years using a supplementary card tied directly to my bank account, a safety net she assumed was endless. Within 6 short hours, their entire cozy world came crashing down. They finally realized the terrifying truth. I was never just a daughter living in their spare bedroom. I was the financial engine holding their lives together. On day 7, the silence was broken. My phone, which had been blissfully peaceful for a week, suddenly blew up like a warning siren. It started at 8 a.m. with a missed call from my dad, followed immediately by a frantic text message. "Harley, call me back right now. The business tax portal is locked and I can't pay my suppliers." I didn't answer. By noon, my mother's name lit up the screen 5 times in a row. When I didn't pick up, her messages shifted from arrogant demands to aggressive guilt trips. "How could you do this to your family? You know your sister has sensitive health, and now her card isn't working. You are being selfish and spiteful." I simply set my phone on the coffee table, sat back on my balcony with a book, and watched the notifications pile up while taking slow sips of my coffee. By late afternoon, the tone completely changed. Arrogance evaporated, replaced by raw, frantic panic. A voicemail from my mother came through, her voice trembling through heavy tears. "Harley, please, the bank says the mortgage didn't go through. They're threatening late fees. Your father is crying in the office because he can't process payroll. Please, sweetheart, just come home. We made a terrible mistake. We need you." Then came a text from Chloe, the golden child who couldn't stand the sight of my face, reading, "Harley, I'm sorry about the room. Please unblock my card. I can't pay my balance." It was a masterclass in desperation. They didn't miss me. They missed my money, my labor, and the effortless lifestyle I had provided them while taking their abuse. I listened to every single desperate voicemail, feeling no guilt, only the ice-cold clarity of a woman who had finally opened her eyes. They didn't just stay on the phone. By Tuesday afternoon, my parents and sister managed to track me down. They had gotten my new address from a mutual acquaintance at my firm, expecting to find me huddled in some miserable, run-down motel room, eager to crawl back home. Instead, when I opened the door of my luxury downtown apartment, the shock on their faces was priceless. My mother stood there, her eyes red and puffy, holding a plastic grocery bag like a peace offering. My father looked 10 years older, his posture slouched and defeated. Chloe cowered behind them, looking uncomfortably out of place without her high-end designer clothes. "Harley," my mother whimpered, reaching out to touch my arm, though I took a deliberate step back. "Thank God you're okay. Look at this place. Why didn't you tell us you moved here?" "Honey, we've had such a terrible, stressful week. It was all just a huge misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I asked, my voice as calm and cold as steel. "You threw my suitcase onto the porch in the rain and told me my sister gets sick looking at my face." My father stepped forward, his hands trembling. "Harley, please. The business is going under. My suppliers won't deliver without the invoices, and the bank is threatening to freeze our personal accounts over the mortgage. We can't do this without you. We need our family back." "You don't need your family, Dad," I said, pulling an itemized folder from my entryway console. "You need your accountant and your cash cow." I handed him the folder. Inside was a complete, 3-year financial breakdown detailing every single dollar I had spent on their mortgage, utilities, Chloe's credit cards, and his business taxes, totaling over $110,000. Chloe gasped, staring at the number. "Harley, you're really cutting us off." "I'm not cutting you off," I replied, looking directly into my mother's tearful eyes. "I'm just giving you the exact independence you asked for. From now on, you get to support your golden child yourselves." 6 months have passed since that day on my doorstep, and my life has transformed in ways I never thought possible. Without the crushing financial and emotional burden of my family, I've finally been able to invest in myself. I received a major promotion at my accounting firm, traveled to places I'd only ever dreamed of visiting, and built a home filled with genuine peace and security. As for my family, the consequences of their choices caught up with them quickly. My parents were forced to downsize, putting our childhood home on the market because they simply couldn't handle the mortgage payments alone. My father had to hire an expensive outside agency to salvage his business records, forcing him to work long, exhausting hours well into his 60s. And Chloe, the sister who was always too delicate to work, finally took a full-time retail job to cover her own expenses. For the first time in her life, she's learning what it actually takes to earn a living. I cut contact with all 3 of them completely, choosing to protect my peace rather than allow toxic relatives to drag me down under the guise of family obligation. Blood might make you related, but respect, love, and basic decency are what make a true family. Standing up for yourself isn't always easy, and walking away from people who take you for granted can feel terrifying. But sometimes, losing the wrong people is the only way to find yourself.